Welcome to the weekly sales kickoff. Are you enjoying these? Hey, every week I put this out. It's a little bit of inspiration, training, and application designed to do one thing to get you and your sales team to the next level. Hey, we're going behind a paywall real soon. You need to get yourself and your team signed up for this to receive this, because every week the weekly sales kickoff is for me, Mark Hunter, the sales hunter, and it's about inspiration, training, and application. I call it ITA to start your MONDAY. Hey, let's get into it. Have you ever sat around with too much time on your hands? Have you ever sat around with, wow, man, I don't know what I'm going to do with all this time on my hands? You know what's interesting? We live in the most challenged period of time we've ever seen, and right now in the midst of COVID and pandemic and everything, oh man, it seems like we have more time pressure than anything. But you know what's funny? Time is really a finite resource. Whoa, what do I mean? Think about this for a moment. You can get anything more of anything you want, but you can't get more of time. There's 24 hours in a day. I live in Omaha, Nebraska. If you drive down this street over here about 7 miles, you're going to get to Warren Buffett's house. Warren Buffett, he's one of the wealthiest men in the world. And if you think about that, he's worth billions. And yet he and I have the same amount of time every day, 24 hours in a day. You see, time is a finite resource. So what you have to do is you have to figure out, how do you leverage it? How do you make the most of your time? I really don't ever really sit around saying, man, I have all this time on my hands. I don't know what I'm going to do. You see, time controls us unless we control it. Ask yourself this question. When was the last time you had a chance to breathe? And I mean breathe, I mean just plain breathe. Because again, see, here's the question. We get challenged so frequently by so many different things pounding on us, taking our time. Mark Cuban, Shark Tank, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, has a wonderful line. He says, never attend a meeting unless you're getting a check. Oh, that's a great sales idea, isn't it? Never attend a meeting unless you're getting a check. And no, that's not just a sales idea. It's an idea for anything and everything. You see, what's the benefit of it? You see, what I'm going to challenge you, I want to challenge your thinking. The most successful people in the world control time. Everyone else lets time control them. Where are you at? Is time controlling you, or are you controlling time? With that, let's shift over to the T, teaching. And yes, it's all about time. Here's the piece I want to ask you. How much of your calendar do you control? You see, what I want to teach you today is really a very simple concept called time blocking. What is time blocking? Well, if you look at our calendars, well, I'm sure you got on there, you got meetings and different things, but you have activities on there. You see, what I'm going to challenge you to do is I'm going to challenge you to start blocking your time to where you segment time. 30 minutes for this activity, an hour for this activity, 15 minutes for this activity. And here's why. It does two things. First of all, it keeps you on task. It keeps you focused. Because if you have a meeting, it's amazing how you show up for a meeting, right? So what you do is you say, I'm going to follow my calendar. So you may set aside 30 minutes to take care of this report. 45 minutes on Friday afternoon to kind of clean up this. You might spend time here preparing for this customer visit. All these various pieces, but you block time for it. Now here's why you block time also. Because your objective is to get the task done in the time allocated. Here's what happens. We have what I call project creep. Project creep, time sink. Project creep is where the project just kind of keeps growing, and you say, well, I got to get this done this afternoon. And before you know it, you've taken up all afternoon to get that project done. You see, project creep, time sink. You lost all your time. You see, what I want you to do is I want you to say, I'm going to set aside 1 hour. And in that 1 hour, have you ever noticed how the last 5 minutes of any meeting many times are the most productive, or the last couple minutes of a sales call, or remember back in the days before laptops and cell phones and everything, they always said the most productive day of the work year was the day before vacation, because you needed to get all this done before you went on vacation. You see, this is the whole concept. It's about how do we get it set up to where just in that time. Now here's what makes time blocking work. When you do this beforehand. Now, in my book, A Mind for Sales, I talk about this. But a very simple principle is this. Before you end today, you set up your calendar exactly how you're going to spend your time all the time. Now, you can even block time in there to do nothing. Okay, it's going to be just email or it's just catch up on things, whatever it might be. Okay, but you allocate time, and the reason you allocate time, you assign time, because now let's get your head thinking. As you allocate time, be thinking not just of the time you're allocating, but of the outcome you want to create. This is absolutely important. It is a twofold process. You're scheduling time for the activity, but you're also determining the outcome you want to achieve. Because at the end of that 30 minutes or that 1 hour, you want to ask yourself, did I achieve that outcome? You score yourself, you evaluate yourself. This is what top performers do. This is what the Mark Cubans of the world do. This is what Richard Bransons of the world do. In other words, they look at their, what is the outcome I want? So it isn't so much as I'm scheduling an activity, I'm committing to an outcome. Think about that. I'm not so much scheduling an activity as I am committing to an outcome. Now, what's going to happen is you're going to go through your day and you're going to be evaluating, did I achieve that outcome? Did I achieve it? At the end of the day, you're going to be able to look back and say, what were the outcomes I created? Because if you can't substantiate in your own mind the outcomes you created at the end of the day, then you have to ask yourself, was my day productive? You see, I contend all of us have the capability to increase our productivity, our output, our outcomes by at least 50 to 75 to 100%. Easy, easy, easy. By just better allocation of our time. Now, in a perfect world, what I really encourage you to do is that you don't do this the week before, but you start a week before. On Sundays or sometime over the weekend, I talk about it in my book, A Mind for Sales. You begin looking at your calendar and you begin assigning blocks of time. And each day then, you tighten up the following days. In other words, so you review the week, the weekend before, and you review each day the day before. This allows you to stay in sync and on track. Now, let's move over to the application, because that was the training, so that's the application. So you can imagine that the application was really a lot like what I talked about, but here's what I want you, before you jump into this, because I get a lot of pushback. People say, Mark, I don't have time. I'm already productive. I'm already productive. Here's what I want to ask you. Go into your browser and go into history and see all the websites that you looked at over the last week that really have no value to your work. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying every moment of every day has to be absolutely productive. Believe me, I look at ESPN.com. I look at various news sites. Yeah, I do. But they don't consume me. And see, this is the whole thing. I might take a look at them for a minute, but then I got to get back on task. So here's your activity. Your activity, and you may need to do this for 2 weeks. You may only need to do it for a week. But I want you to record. Keep a clock, keep a watch, keep your iPhone, keep your whatever. But I want you to keep a log. And this is going to be a little bit time consuming. It's going to take some time. But I want you to record how you use your time every day for a week or two. And you know what you're going to find? You're going to find large blocks of time. When I first was tasked with doing this exercise about 25 years ago by my boss, because I had said I'm very productive. When he tasked me with doing this, I suddenly learned that there was maximum of 4 hours a day I was really working. When I went through this exercise and we really dug down, it was really only about 4 hours. Now, I would hope that I'm better. I hope I'm up to maybe 7 or 8 hours, and I admit I work probably a 12-hour day. But here's the whole thing, what I want you to challenge yourself with. I want you, as you go through this exercise, you're going to begin to see what are the gaps, what are the things. Because here's the whole thing. Even without taking things off your plate, you will find time that you can now allocate. That's right. Even without, because people say, well, stop doing that. Stop. Well, how do I tell my boss I don't have to do this report? I can't. Now, what I'm saying is this. You'll still have time to get all that done, and you'll have more time to be prospecting and selling and everything by simply allocating your time better. You do that for a week or two, and you'll suddenly begin to realize that you've got an extra easy half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour a day. Now think about this. If you just had a half hour a day, that's 2.5 hours a week. So over a month, that's 10, 12 hours. basically you're going to wind up with almost over the course of a year, almost 3 additional weeks of time. Now, think about how many times over the history of your sales career you fell short because you just needed 1 more week. Think about that. Now, in 3 of the 4 quarters, you'd be able to add a 14th week. Would that make you more successful? It sure would. You see, the application is to go through and examine your time. To be able to come back to the training point that I talked about in terms of allocating time, blocking time on your calendar, which gets you back to the inspiration piece, which is you controlling time versus time controlling you. Hey, I'm Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter. This is another weekly sales kickoff. Get signed up for it. Get signed up. Get your team signed up. Go out to the link. Get signed up because we're going behind a paywall. You're not going to get it. You're going to want this every single week as a way to kick off your sales, kick off your week, kick off your sales meeting, however it is. I'm there for you. I'm Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter. Great selling.